My channel is sponsored by Geology, which means we will hear an ad from them somewhere in the middle of today's video. Iron Lung, the video game, the YouTube video, the movie, a film made by YouTuber Markiplier based on an indie horror game that he personally helped popularize, has made an estimated $48 million globally on what is being reported as a $3 million budget. First-time director, first-time scriptwriter, no studio, no festivals, no investors, no distributor, effectively no marketing budget outside of the obviously enormous reach that Mark already has, so nothing / I don't think you can expect other YouTubers to have success with the same method, but certainly no traditional marketing. Mark did this truly his own way, truly in a way that only he is able to, and the fact that he succeeded genuinely could not be more well deserved. And on that note, both for ethical disclosure reasons and because my heart compels me to, I must say I am friends with Mark. I do have a tiny part in the movie. We chatted here and there about script stuff, and I sat with him and gawked at his edit timeline once, and I also know a bunch of people who make movies at this point. Truly, some of my closest friends are successful filmmakers. I tell you that not to brag, but to state that I don't know if I have ever in my entire career seen anyone work as hard on anything as Mark did on Iron Lung. Of course, the financial success of this movie in the face of Hollywood production video game adaptations that are either terrible and flop horribly, Borderlands, the more recent Return to Silent Hill, or they're inauthentic but do make a lot of money, Minecraft, Five Nights at Freddy's, is worth recognizing and naturally is getting a lot of recognition. But I do think I would just really want to applaud more than anything how hard Mark worked on this and how much he cared. And you see that in a lot of the reviews. Even the reviews that are negative still recognize that this movie was made with incredible sincerity by someone who cares about the game and believes in what they were making and isn't having their ideas watered down by money-grubbing executives. It is wonderful that this thing was able to exist. It's like, for all of the praise that Iron Lung has been getting for making money, I would love to double it regarding the fact that it is in such rare fashion right now, a true piece of art made by a human straight from the heart. That is far rarer for films that get theatrical releases than making money even is. It almost never happens. He asked me to record some extra lines at some point in January. I submitted them like halfway through January. This movie came out on January 30th. Mark did not stop working on it until the very last seconds. Just so much love and so much love to him for that. But more to the overall point of this video, he did also consult with the game director, David Szymanski. Since pre-production, David assisted with the screenplay. He was on set during filming. He has a little cameo in the movie. This is the way it should be and can be. And we will get to why it is largely not happening after a word from today's sponsor, who's the reason I was able to spend the time making this video. Thank you. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by skincare, like you need a 10-step routine and a chemistry degree just to wash your face, let me put you onto something way simpler, because trust me, I've been there. Geology is a 42-time award-winning personalized skincare company that's been featured in publications like Men's Health, Esquire, and many more. They have over 10,000 5-star reviews, which is pretty nuts, and I personally would have to give it that exact same rating. Here's why. They build a routine specifically for you. You complete a very quick 60-second quiz about your skin type or skin concerns. Then they formulate a plan for you, including ingredients dermatologists have trusted for decades. And it's really only the good ingredients. They don't have any 10-step routines or insanely long ingredients lists, and since everything is coming from the same customized plan, you don't have to worry about getting ingredients that might not be compatible with each other, which is a whole thing. Maybe you're dealing with acne. Their salicylic acid face wash cleans deep into pores to prevent breakouts before they even start. Maybe you have redness or irritation. Their gentle dermatologist-tested formulas won't trigger flare-ups. Of course, it is a subscription service. Think of it like a gym for your face. Like, you can't expect results after one workout. Results take time and consistency, but if you don't like subscriptions specifically, you can also get Geology on Amazon. So what are you waiting for? Use my code and grab 80% off your personalized skincare trial set. So there are many examples here across the spectrum, but let's compare Iron Lung to the recently announced Baldur's Gate 3 adaptation. It was announced, again, somewhat recently, that Craig Mazin, the showrunner behind the Last of Us TV series, is adapting Baldur's Gate 3 with HBO. Mazin will be writing, EPing, and showrunning the series alongside EP's Jacqueline Lesko, Cecil O'Connor, and Hasbro's Gabriel Morano. None of these names have anything to do with Larian Studios, the creators of Baldur's Gate 3, which is arguably the best game of the past decade? But none of them have anything to do with Larian, because Larian is not actually working on it. Larian's CEO said on Twitter, "Crazy that a story that started out in a small hotel conference room eventually evolved into a narrative inspiring enough for it to become a HBO series. We worked incredibly hard on making Baldur's Gate 3 worthy of its legacy. Its characters and narratives are the result of many teams working together, and I think I can speak for them all in saying that they'll think this is cool and hope that what comes next will enjoy the same level of passion." The endings of BG3 were created so they could serve as narrative soil for new adventures. There's plenty of directions they could go. I'm eager to find out which ones Craig and his team will pick. He's reached out for a chat, so we'll have the opportunity to tell him our thoughts. He elaborated further there, again saying yes, Craig has reached out to him for a chat, but that no writers from the Baldur's Gate 3 team will be involved in the making of this show, which is the standard. And that sucks. They wrote something truly incredible, and I cannot think of a better team to, continue writing that world. But there is also a reason for that, and it's one that I feel like a lot of gamers just might not know about, or people in general probably don't know about. TV shows are almost always written by members of the Writers Guild of America, or the WGA, which video game writers are not even eligible to be a part of. Union rules mean that video game writers aren't even allowed to be in the same room as TV writers. And when I say room, to be clear, I mean writer's room. I don't mean like physical building. I mean writer's room, like you're not allowed to be there when they're doing the writing stuff. Let me point you to this Blue Sky post from game writer Anna Webster. She wrote, "I may delete this because it's a bit spicy. Sorry, I've now immortalized it in this video, Anna. But it shouldn't be lost on us that games being turned into TV is essentially harvesting stories written by those who don't have union representation or healthcare, with WGA by those that do. Our stories are good enough for TV, but the writers aren't. I want to shout, our stories are good enough for TV, but the writers aren't, from the goddamn rooftops." Back in 2020, the WGA actually removed the last of their barely any ties with the games industry by removing the video game writing category from their awards show. The Writers Guild of America Awards has existed since 1949, and the Best Video Game Writing category was a part of it from 2008 to 2019. Winners included Uncharted 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, bro, I love that game so much, The Last of Us, and God of War 2018, among others. The WGA said the category would be reinstated when there is a critical mass of video games covered by the WGA in order to provide a meaningful selection process. Basically, there weren't enough video games covered by the WGA for them to have enough nominees to pick from for the awards to really make sense. In that part, they were totally correct. Not a lot of video games were eligible for nomination for the WGA. That is, however, the WGA's fault, in my opinion. I should be extra clear here that I'm very pro-union in general. The WGA does great work and is very protective of writers in film and TV. They just suck for video games. Basically, in order to be nominated or win, the writers must first be part of the WGA. In order to join the WGA, writers have to have written on radio, TV, theater, or motion pictures for a signatory company, which is a company that has signed the Guild's bargaining agreement. There's a system based on units where the type of work that you've done gives you a certain number of units, and in order to join the Guild, you must have 24 units total. There is no mention of video games in the unit system. In fact, there is currently no way for a video game writer to become a fully fledged member of the WGA unless they do also write for one of the aforementioned other mediums. So video game writers basically just don't exist to the writers union. There are no protections in place for video game writers, even if they are already WGA members. There is nothing that the union does to support them while they write on a video game. I even found an article written about this in 1997. It goes to show how long this has been criticized. Thus, yeah, video game adaptations that are picked up by major production studios cannot be written by the video game writers or anyone else on the dev team, because almost all major studios are WGA signatories. Warner Bros., Sony, Paramount, Universal, Netflix, pretty much all of them. But you can't become part of the union without having written on things, and if you're already writing on video games, how are you supposed to find the time to write on the other stuff to become part of the union? It's basically just video games don't exist to us. They're not known for really writing those, right? The second a game dev sells the rights to adapt their work to a major studio, they are often preventing the dev team from being able to work on it in any meaningful capacity. There goes your authenticity. Again, not to blame the game devs. I think the WGA should change specifically, but that is the way that it is. I also should acknowledge that I understand why it's difficult for video games to fit in the WGA structure, because they're usually annual salary rather than smaller terms. So it would be harder to come up with contracts. I'm acknowledging that. Also, it's not that simple as just add video game writers back in, but something not being simple doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Something not being simple doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That's like a triple negative. I don't even know where we landed on the end of that. That's too many negatives. I'm just going to assume that you understood what I meant. Admittedly, studio video game adaptations have been getting better. The Last of Us and Fallout specifically clearly made with the involvement of someone on the dev team, but they remain outliers rather than rules and have the cushy protections of huge mega corporations who are concerned about fucking up their brand image. Bethesda is in a position where they can be extremely picky about what happens to Fallout. Indie game devs are not afforded the same power and really don't have the ability to bargain for it because the IP isn't half as big and they don't have all the fancy lawyers. I mean, genuinely, the minute an IP is fully handed over, Hollywood execs will even lie to each other about creative involvement. It happened to George Lucas.
They decided they didn't want to use those stories. They decided they were going to go do their own thing, and so I decided, fine. But basically, I'm not going to try to... They weren't that keen to have me involved anyway, but at the same time, I said, I'm not going to... If I get in there, I'm just going to cause trouble, because they're not going to do what I want them to do, so... And I don't have the control to do that anymore, and all I would do is muck everything up. So I said, okay, I will go my way, and I'll let them go their way. And these are my kids. So
all those Star Wars films.
All the Star Wars films.
They were your kids.
Yeah, well, they are right. You know, I loved them. I created them. I'm very intimately involved in them, and obviously to
and
sell
you
them
sold
off.
them.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and
okay.
They say, oh, we promise you'll be creatively involved, and then absolutely nothing comes from that. Of course, they're saying the same thing to game devs. And with all of this comes my plea, basically. Listen, I get that if you're a game dev, Hollywood personalities can be incredibly charming. They walk in the room, blind you with their veneers and their perfect hairlines and tell you how great your story is, tell you how much money you're gonna make, tell you they'll totally include you, bro. Don't worry, it's all about your vision, bro, except where the story or casting or distribution or themes or plot or anything else is concerned. But my point there is, like, I get it. It's a studio you've heard of or a director that you know, and you get swept off your feet just like the Game Awards seems to every single year.
From a little article in a newspaper to a movie to a video game. It's pretty cool. I'd like to now introduce a surprise guest and also one of my friends for life, Vin Diesel.
But I promise you, Hollywood needs video games far more than video games need Hollywood. I totally understand that many game devs have been inspired by generations of incredible films, and being approached at all is both a big deal, and it is, and a huge compliment, and it is, but that should not undercut how cool you are. Video game worlds are incredible. For all of the smack talk that comes to video games in terms of writing, there are so many incredible stories written by our incredibly talented writers and our actors and our musicians and our artists. There is a very good reason that Hollywood is trying to snatch up every single video game IP that they can. And it's not out of some pitiful favor to video games. If someone is coming to you because they want your IP, it's because you made something awesome and people already love it. Games are awesome. There are so many wonderful, literally life-changing, moving video game stories that are made by teams of passionate, incredibly hardworking people over the span of several years, if not decades in some cases. Like, I am so proud to be part of this industry in any way, and you should be too. Thus is really my thesis, okay? This isn't supposed to be anti-union. The WGA is treating video game writers terribly. But what I'm actually trying to tell you is part of the reason that adaptations are often so bad and feel so inauthentic is specifically because their creators are selling the rights to a Hollywood studio who, because of the way the WGA works for starters, has to cut the writers out of writing on it. So one option here is to push the WGA to consider including video game writers in the process. Again, I recognize that that is complicated. It is something that I'm having some conversations with some people about. And solution number 2, you can do this entirely independently the way that Mark and David did with Iron Lung, to obviously huge success. Adaptations do not have to go through a studio for people to see it and love it, and in my opinion, indie is the only way to all but guarantee authenticity. There is not a single atom in Mark's body that made that movie for money. And there is an indie filmmaker or indie production company out there who has at least one person involved who genuinely loves your game. I promise you they're there. They probably already thought about it. You might just have to look around for them, reach out to them, or wait for them to reach out to you. Hey, good news, you are not in a rush. The power is in your hands. You can and should wait until you find the perfect fit under the perfect circumstances for you. Please stay indie. The interest in your game is not going to disappear, I promise. Second or third, I really genuinely mean this. If some Hollywood studio or writer is trying to snap up your property, talk to me before you sign anything. I will do everything I can to help you. I'll be announcing a sort of official means for people to contact me about this kind of thing very soon. It is something I've been working on since I left Sony, and I am very excited to share more soon. Stay tuned. But I could not be more happy to help you and act as a shield for game developers against unfair Hollywood contracts written by incredibly charming, often deceitful businessmen. My logic is that most of the indie space is very well connected enough that if you're an indie game dev who is getting requests to adapt their rights, surely you know someone who knows me. Genuinely reach out, I will help you. What I'm saying that I'm really sick of is indie game devs like getting these stars in their eyes and going, wow, Hollywood approached us. Of course they did, because you made something awesome. You're cooler than they are. You're cooler than them. Video games rule. I cannot see why we ever rely on Hollywood to come in and change everything when the magic is already there. You've already made it. Nothing should change that. Nothing needs to change that. They don't deserve us. I say as somebody who just wrote and produced an original feature film. Check out Godmother. It's completely independent. We have an Instagram. No trailer yet. Indies in all industries are good, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Unless you're a startup tech bro. You don't count. I've seen some of them call themselves independent. You don't count. Oh, I only got $2 million in investment funds. You don't count.